the good old shadow video that is probably going to change your life. Just because I'm going to share with you exactly what I went through this process of integrating the shadow and inspire you into realizing that this is the ultimate key. I feel extreme amounts of resistance to talking about this topic because it's honestly, if I'm going to say I'm an expert at anything, it's this. But I have such a perfectionistic perspective on myself when it comes to getting things right. And I don't want to mislead anybody in this information because I am not a psychiatrist. I am not a psychologist. Same shit. I am not a doctor. I am just, I identify as a healer, but I still am just somebody that has took authority over her own life and said, if I'm going to make a change, it's going to be me that does it. I don't want to outsource my problem solving about my inner world and what I go through to somebody else. I'm going to be the one that does it. And so through this journey of a couple of years now of working with my shadow and integrating my shadow, I have gotten to a place now where I just don't see how anybody can move forwards without this work. And so if I don't share it and I keep it to myself, I cannot help anybody else that also needs this type of work done on themselves, and they are also in the similar position where it's like, okay, I obviously have shit going on in my life, I have problems, and I don't want to give them to somebody else. I want to be the one that figures this out. I want to be able to heal myself. And so that's where shadow comes in. Shadow is about healing thyself. You could do a lot of healing work at the conscious level, like meditating, breath work, doing a lot of, concentration, sound baths, yoga. You can do that. That is what the world would maybe call healing in the conscious level. But that does not change your circumstances, and that does not change who you are as an individual. That doesn't give you identity shift. Well, it maybe you could say, oh yeah, I'm a spiritual person, but then you end up being a devil on the outside. So it's apparent to make this distinction. Shadow isn't about becoming all bad and taboo and wrong. It's about taking back an ownership over every aspect of your being so that you can be whole and complete within yourself. And so when people don't understand this, shadow work can seem kind of It's like, I don't know if I want to look at that. And it doesn't even open up to themselves what the possibilities of the shadow could be. Because the shadow is empowerment. The shadow is comfortability with who you are. And the shadow is everything you didn't think you needed, but you actually do. So let's just get into it. In my own journey, my shadow journey looked like this. I left New Jersey and I went out and lived in Los Angeles. I had a different life back then. I was pursuing different goals, and on the conscious level, it was all planned out beautifully, how it all fell apart. I was like, okay, perfect. It's lined up great. And so when I left my family home, I was 20 years old, and I went out and lived in Los Angeles. And living there, my conscious life just shattered in a matter of 5 months or so. And my unconscious just started to play out when I was out there. And it kind of forced me to say, I have to let go and go in and just do all this work. And if I don't know what else the fuck to do, because my whole life is completely shattered and broken. I had no option but to look inside myself and figure this shit out. And so through that journey and through that process, I really got to a point where I was like, okay, I did it. I did a lot of work, because I did. Through that whole 2.5, 3 years of living in Los Angeles, I was doing a lot of healing work, shadow work, psychedelic work, consciousness work. But, and when I say but, it was not complete. And given that this thing with shadow is that the unconscious was going to play out regardless, my ass was thrown right back where I started, right back into my mother's home with my familial, who does not understand me and what I went through this process. Because I went through a lot through this process of shedding and expanding my mind and my consciousness, embracing different levels of reality I didn't know were possible, living as those realities, making sense of it within my mind through my study and through all this inner work. And now I'm this quote-unquote different individual, right? On the outside, I've done a lot of work. Even on the inside, I was a different individual on the inside, but it wasn't done, is what I'm trying to say. So I did a lot of shifting and change. So that person is now here. This new identity is here. But there's still work to do. And so I always say this. It's like, oh, you have your life figured out. You think you're healed, right? All right, I'm going to throw you back in your family home and see how healed you really are. And I feel like that's what God did. I mean, I did, right? So there's no one to blame here. My shadow did, but my shadow is me. So as I made my journey back home and lived here, I was faced with tests every single day till today on shadow. And wow, what a journey it has fucking been. I have been in excruciating, intense situations and pain, all for the sake of wanting to express this energy and not understanding that it was all me in the first place. Me seeing these individuals around me, making a shadow on them, and not realizing that they contain all my shadow material. So from a very healing perspective, it's like you got your medicine, right? It's right in front of you. Here you go. But from a individual human perspective, I will say this has been the most painful experience, and also the most liberating, healing, and growing experience. So you can't always pick the nicey nice when you got the garbage to still take out outside, okay? So basically, I went through that. And the more shadow material I integrated back into myself while watching these hoes, I fucking love them to death, but they're crazy, in my opinion, right? So and especially that's one of my biggest ones, is the crazy. The crazy. Girl or man. The crazy? Oh, the crazy. That is the biggest shadow I possess. That is the biggest one that I possess. Oh, yeah. So, now, when you're doing this work, you're going into the taboo, you're going into the kinky, and you're going into the freak. And this is where people created the shadow in the first place. There's a lot of sexual shadow. Taboo, having my family's home. So there's a lot of sexual shadow, right? There's a lot of aggression and anger and fighting shadow. That's also there, you know what I'm saying? And all of this needs to be worked through the body and re-owned within yourself, okay?